this video, I'll show you how to set up a website locally that is storing values on MySQL database. So for example, here, this is how it works. Let's say here, your favorite Pokemon is Onix, and then you add it, and then it gets loaded. And this table comes from the database that is being queried. So here's the database. Here's Onix that I just input with the time that I put it in. And yeah, we're gonna go through it. This is a bit of a diagram. So the website, imagine this is the website, is reading from the database to display all these Pokemons that you've stored before. And it also wants you write in this form here, and you click add, then it sends to the database. So this is basically how it works. And let's take a look at the code. So I'm using Visual Studio Code. You can use any type of editor you want. And you're gonna create a folder, let's say Pokemon DB. And then inside you're gonna have a file, which is index.php. And here there's some PHP code. If you're not familiar with PHP, it's not the end of the world. This is just a language, a programming language that you can use. And the first thing is to require what's inside this other file, which is this. And here you have this. You would change, like for example, if later you wouldn't have it localhost, but you would have it in some type of like Vercel or some service online, then you probably would have to change the URL here to the external cloud server that you're using. And then the database name, in this case I chose this one, and could have chose something else, but I didn't. And then this PDO, which is nothing to do with PDOs. This is PHP data object, if I remember correctly. And then you're essentially creating a new PDO object and setting some attributes and catching errors in case there's some type of failure to connect. Then you would see it here. Let me make it a little bit bigger. Then, okay, so this is being loaded. Essentially, you have the location where the database is. This is the username by default, which is root, and empty password. And if you don't understand this, it's not the end of the world. So basically, when you're loading the website, all this code is being loaded, and then you're gonna have a query. If you're not familiar with SQL, do like a little tutorial out there, but basically this is taking everything from this table. So there's a Pokemon table in my database, and I'm selecting everything. So show me all the rows, like you can see on the website right here. So this is the magic that makes this load. So it's communicating with the database. So this part right here, reading from the database, that's what that is. And then you have a query, which is this, and it's being prepared and executed, and then you get it. So that's what this is essentially doing. And you're closing the PDO connection and the statement. But basically this chunk, what it's doing is like asking from the database, what do you have in the table Pokemon? Can you give it to me? And then the rest is pretty basic HTML type of stuff. So some headers here, some style sheets. There's like actually this is not being used at the moment, but yeah, there's some Pico Fluid classless minified CSS, which makes everything look a little bit nicer. And this is the code of what you're seeing on the website. So what you're seeing here, this is the HTML version of that. Nothing really mind-blowing or anything. There's a button, there's the input form, and here is how you display the table. So you have ID, Pokemon created date, which again, ID, Pokemon created date, and you're using the information that you got from the database. So you have this Pokemon, this is a for each, which is looping, and then the Pokemon, I think it's like, it's up here if I don't remember, yeah, so it's here. It's this thing right here. This is what you're getting from the database. Nothing really super, mind-boggling here. Then you have form handler, which is essentially what the magic that runs once you click on the add button. And the magic is that this only works if you're making a post. So if you're clicking on the add button, then you can do this stuff. But if not, what this else is doing is that if the person tries to access this website, so it includes /formhandler.inc.php, take him back to the index, which is the main page, because he's not supposed to be on this site. So this only gets activated if you click the add button. So yeah, you have this try catch block. You use this so if to try do this thing, and if it doesn't work, then it prompts up, it stops the process, and then it prompts up with a little message. And this is the query that you use, is the magic that you run in order to insert something into the database. And there's some preparation, execution, and then go back to the main page. And that's pretty much it. Like, what you need to do, let's say now you have all this code. How do you run this locally? If you just go to index.php website locations, it's not gonna do anything. It's gonna load up the code. It's not gonna. So you need to run it with a server. So like XAMPP, let's call it XAMPP control panel, and for that you're gonna just download it. Gonna go to apachefriends.org and then download, and then pick the version you want. I don't think it's that relevant which one you pick. Let's pick the last one, and then it will start automatically, and then you download it. That's it. You install it, and then once installed, you run it. It will look something like this. And the next thing is that here in the Apache httpd.conf, you have where are the files that are being loaded on the server located. So for example, if we check here, this is the config file. In line 252, you have the path. Here is where my files are located, so you can switch it. By default, I think it's in the installation directory, so it's gonna be a thing. Default is here. So by default, it's this one. So C/XAMPP htdocs. That's what's gonna be here. Document root and directory. So you're gonna put here your path, the path that you're using for your files. So in my case, it's this, okay? If you don't wanna mess with the config system, just make sure to delete everything that is here. And this is where you set up, where you copy all your files, the .php files and so on. Okay, so once again, you have two options. One is you go to C/XAMPP/htdocs, delete all this, and load what you want. So have there all your files. Second option, you don't want to mess with this. You go to the httpd.conf file, and how you get there is by clicking here and here. And then there you put the path of the files that you have. Remember at the end, no slash. So slashes in the middle, yes, but not at the end, okay? Once you've decided, then you come here, you open this panel, so start menu, XAMPP, and then click start this too. It would show up green, and then you try it by going to localhost browser, you click localhost. And I think the first time there won't be anything here, so you will get an error most likely. And that's why you have to go to localhost/phpMyAdmin. And there you would get a page like this. And then you will go to new, and you will create a database. You can call it what you want. I called it penis. And then you click on create. Once that is created, you probably update the page, enter the database you created. Here I have another table. And the first time you click on SQL, for example, and this is the command that I use. Let me load it up. For the Pokemon, I use this. So you will have an ID that is an int of 11 characters, cannot be null, and auto increments, meaning that if we go back and we look at the Pokemons, you will see that the first ID, the first one, Bulbasaur, had a 1, then a 2, then a 3, then a 4. You get the picture. So this is what I used, this thing right here. So the first column of the table is an ID that gets auto incremented with each entry. The second one is the name of the Pokemon, which has this many characters. And then this is created automatically, which is like a timestamp of the date and the time that you submitted a new Pokemon. And the primary key is the ID. And you take this, paste it, and then in SQL, in the database you created, SQL, you'll create a table. Say here, let's call it something else, testing, and then you click on go. And now if I go back to my penis database, I would have a testing. It's empty, but it has 0 rows, but I've created it. So now what you do is you just update this. It should be empty, but you can start adding what you want. Sometimes you come up with some type of errors, but I'm sure should be fixable, I think. Maybe there's some error here somewhere, but I think for me this works. The thing I like about this small standalone projects is that you can play around. It's not going to make you an expert in anything, but you can play around enough to start learning about something. So it's going to be it for me. If you have any questions, post them down below. And yeah, again, check out the source. That's Danny Crossing. So I took some of his tutorials, check them out on PHP. They're very good. They're just quite verbose. So I wanted to have something minified, basically, some very small example that works that I can build on top of. So check out his full course for beginners on PHP. I think he explains everything really well. I just wanted to have something. I haven't seen a lot of tutorials explaining things in a very short way that doesn't force you to use 1,000 different frameworks for this and for that, and it just overcomplicates things. I just want a simple example. I wanted a prototype that was something like this, that I could just add something on a database and then list it. That's all. And of course you can create more columns. In the example he uses, there's many more. It's like for example, like a users table, and then you have a user, password, email, and stuff like that. But I think if you can make it work with something simple, with just like a single point of entry, then you can complicate it as much as you want. Usually people have a lot of trouble connecting to databases and so on. And again, just to clarify, this is right now acting as the server, but if you would like to make something go to production and show it to customers, then you would want to have this somewhere in the cloud. Let's say, for example, Vercel or Heroku or whatever services there are. I tried many of them. I think Vercel has some free tier that is, for playing around, it's more than enough. So check it out if you want. All right, that's it for me. Take care. Have a good one. Bye-bye.